like I'm seeing tornadoes. Like like I'm in a movie scene. Shit's being thrown across the road. Like there's points where you can't even see because it's raining so hard. Like legitimately, you see like trees being uprooted, and we're just driving.
So you both have 2 deployments under your belt at this point.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a lot about deployment 2 from you yet, Trey. You said that you have a very similar experience to that?
Yeah, she pretty much hit on it. It just was in a different country. My second deployment was in Afghanistan.
Okay.
And
I missed that part. So your second was Iraq.
Right.
You might have said that, and I'm a dum-dum, so.
It's okay.
You were in Afghanistan running virtually the same idea as the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so my second one was basically the same thing as her as far as like how intense it was. I don't even think I really got to go into details, but yeah, it was just a lot of engagements, day, nights, motos, working with different units, different task force. We started switching up. Like I said, I worked a lot with the MARSOC, the Marine Special Forces. We actually split our unit up in twos. So half of the unit stayed up at Bagram, and the other half went down south. And man, down south was even more wild. I think down south was like the Wild West.
Yeah, we were even hearing stories.
I mean, it was insane. Like this when you're watching, like when you put yourself in like I would say the innocent people that are there on the ground. Like if you try to,
it's like that's America, and you are witnessing war.
Yeah, like that's what kind of got me. So in my second deployment, because of all of that, like because of all the shots, I started thinking like, man, I wonder what these people on the ground, like the innocent people, and I'm like, there's nowhere for these people to go. Like they literally because you start like you watching these people so hard, you like develop a relationship with these people. Honestly, like you start to understand like their patterns, their habits.
What's normal, what's not normal.
Yeah, what's normal, what's not normal. Like, you'll see a group of 4 dudes just come out of house, and all of them got like long rifles, AKs or something. And they just walking down the street, and you got kids, women, everything. And there's no, like, that's so normal to them. It's like, you get no reaction. And they're like, just, go in the alleyway and just start popping off rounds. And like, everybody just at the local market, like it's so normal to them. But you think about that here, and it's a total different reaction to like everybody. Like it's split out. The cops is involved. Shoot, if you keep on shooting, you got who knows? You got the army here. I start putting myself in that. I start shaping that on my second deployment, because it was just like, you start shooting. And again, how she said, you have to figure out like, how am I going to cope with this? Like, how am I going to deal with this? And then, like you were saying, that I think helicopter pilot, he was saying that he just, what do you say? He just compartmentalized it.
He didn't act like it.
Yeah, you just act like it's and I think that was the intent when the drone thing came out. How big media presence is saying like, yeah, it's just a video game. But I think that was like a strategic move, because like the people that are doing it, if they think it's a video game, then it's okay. But when you separate that thought that, man, I'm just playing Call of Duty. When you separate that thought and you see that, boom, that what I just did also killed this person, and then you get the report later, and you see that it was a kid, and you got to go to sleep, and you just like, damn, like how can I be better? Mm-hmm. Why am I doing this? And you just got all these scenarios playing in your head, and yeah, so like again, like it's so much that goes into Like it's so complex, and my problem is like I'm thinking as she talk, and like I'm getting these complex rabbit holes to go down, and I don't even want to go down them because it's extensive. But yeah, I mean that was my extent. Like I said, it was just a lot of engaging, a lot of I got to battle buddy, engage with Apaches there. We started doing like Apache handovers. We started doing buddy targeting where we were lasing for them, like we were using their missiles and we was guiding it in. We started doing a lot of those shots. Man, yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of shooting.
Was it the same for you with like for us in Iraq? Like people would be leaving the towns because ISIS would come in and like infiltrate the towns, and these people would be leaving the towns with a sack of their stuff on their bag, waving a white flag like by the thousands, just with nowhere to go. Yep. I have no idea where they were going. They were just leaving and evacuating because ISIS had came in and took over. Mm. Like seeing that was so sad. Like watching like executions on the street by ISIS of women and kids was like traumatic. Like
there's nothing you can
and there's nothing that you can do. Like what are you gonna do? Shoot him as the woman's in his hands? You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. And we were talking about like technically skilled wise, he said he liked to be a payload operator for shots, and I said I like to be an aircraft operator for shots. And for me, it was because in Iraq, when we were doing a lot of our engagements, we were working in the city, like tight quarters, and Mosul, where like all the roads are, there's like walls and fences and different roads and alleyways, and like so. When it comes to that, you have to position the aircraft almost perfectly in order to get the PO to even have a chance of having a good shot, But I think for you in Afghanistan, you didn't have those issues of being like in the city. So he just had to be very technical with the payload. Yeah. So he had to make sure he was spot on with pay. But in Afghanistan, you have to be a lot more spot on because I feel like there's a lot more dirt and it's open area. So there's a lot of places for your lasers to get sucked up at.
So there's a lot of different factors. So like her saying that she was in the city, if it's a group of 5 people, you really just got to aim for the middle, yeah. and the explosion will get everybody. But for me, you couldn't do that because you would just hit the guy in the middle because the dirt would
eat up
and it would eat up the shrapnel. So you just see a big poof and probably some red, and then you would see like a bunch of people just get up and scramble like and then now you gotta figure out who's the most high priority to follow and etc. Or you gotta zoom out so you can try to keep track of all of them. So. I was more technical when it came to assessing where to put the missile in order to make it most effective in my environment. And so I excelled at that side of it. And well, she excelled at
positioning the
aircraft, which is more geometry. Like she was more of the pool shark, while I was more of the sharpshooter.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's complex.
Yeah,
definitely a lot more complex than I had. The idea in my head that I had of it.
Oh yeah, it's complicated. It depends on the temperature, depends on your altitude, depends on how far away you are, depends on if something's reflecting, if something's absorbing your energy. It's crazy.
It's even so technical too. You need to know where the sun is so you don't fly your aircraft in front of the sun because it would give you away. The shadow would give you away. Yeah. Or
blind your payload.
Or to blind your payload. Or you can't be, when you engage, you got to wait till you're a certain distance away from the target because if you don't, then they would hear the rocket before it impacts. Yep. So it would give them time to run versus not give them time to run. Yeah. So it's like as you just going along, you're just learning all these things. You're like I said, it's so complex. Like it's hard to talk about it in one session.
Yeah.
But I think what I was getting at the last time when I spoofed out was that it during when you're doing these engagements, like when you go into it, right? Like you're nervous because you don't want to make mistakes,
Right.
but at the same time, like I guess the bigger picture, you don't want to make mistakes because it's people lives on the line. This is real. Munitions. You know, upper the leadership. You don't want to have to hear about it in the leadership, like little problems, big problems, all the problems, and then you develop that coping mechanism, and then you kind of develop your skills to allow, I mean, because you're able to cope with it. You're able to not hone in on your skills. And then there's the what she was talking about, that other side of it where you can almost potentially go rogue because and it's not like us, it's not like you're doing it yourself, but it's because like the
That's the only way to cope
it's
with
the
it.
only way to cope with
It's like, let's just do this shit. Let's fuck up everybody. I don't give a fuck. You know, it's like putting on the a front of I don't care, even though you're like dying inside.
And or you know you start, you have to make a game with it, like you know you start tallying it, like, oh, I got this many kills, or you know you try to develop like you try to get the sensitivity away from you, so you'll start laughing about it with buddies, and you're trying to like develop this personality of, oh, I don't care, or not that I don't care, but you know it's okay to
You're
me.
normalizing
You're
it.
normalizing it. Yeah, you start trying to normalize it. You're basically struggling to do it. Honestly, like I think everybody goes through it, and then you get to the point where okay, it's normal, and then you go home, and then you have
Now you have to really deal with it.
and then you
that transition of being around people who don't understand and don't have that same humor, and you start to talk about things, and they're looking at you like you're crazy, and they're like, why
because you develop that humor, like you develop that laughing about it, and you got to talk about it, because you don't talk about it, you holding it in. You know, and like she's saying, you start talking about it to the wrong person, they like, man, you might need to go see somebody. Like, and then you start thinking, maybe I do need to go see somebody. And then like it's that was the rabbit hole I was going down. But yeah, that was something that I experienced personally on my second deployment because of how much engagement, how many engagements and how many kills, and like, you know, how many lives we saved, and how many lives that we didn't get to save. And all that stuff starts to build up here. And then when you get home, it all expresses itself. And it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Op tempo comes down. And
you lose that momentum.
I guess like one of the best things you can hope is and fortunately in my time I didn't have to do anything near the same as you guys did. Part of the reason why I went transportation.
Smart.
Well, remember, we thought we was just playing video games, so we didn't know the extent of the stuff that we was about to get into.
Lied to in the beginning. Huh?
I didn't know that this thing had missiles.
Exactly.
Like I went in transportation because my hope was that it would translate to something in the civilian world, which it as often happens. But like I don't have an issue defending myself, but like I have no interest in being infantry. Like my job,
same,
that part. So it's one of those where, like, for me, if I was in a similar position to you, I think I would have to try to fall back on the hoping what I was doing was for the right purpose.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm doing a sucky thing. And being in the Army, you could argue I was a part of an organization that had to do some sucky stuff. My hopes, especially when I went transportation, was like, I don't want to be the guy doing that, but I want to get those guys water, and I want to make sure they have ammo and food, and so that we can do, hopefully, the good things that we set out to do.
Right, yep.
I can imagine it's a pretty tough. I mean, like, you guys probably, I've had my own moments, you know, when I come home, and especially when I first got back. Like my first time I took leave was during Christmas, and I didn't sleep for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a rough adjustment. Like,
it's so
just a lifestyle change is a rough adjustment.
Like being in a house and not hearing the constant hum of generators and so, like it was
Aircraft, yeah.
sharing a bed with my partner. Like she would roll over, and I'm like, "Who the fuck is in my bed?" Yeah,
Yeah,
I spent 8 months by myself somewhere
right.
without that, and I can only imagine just how the extra layers that come with doing a job like your guys' job and that kind of idea.
Yeah. And therapy, like, I mean, it was like a love, well, it's still a love-hate relationship with me in therapy. Like, I was forced to go at first, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. It brought out the worst in me, but I think that's what therapy is there to do, because you have to bring out what's the worst in you to fix it. You know what I mean? Because like you just suppress it and put it away, and it's like it's not a problem, you know? And so it kind of forces you to deal with those things. And I think that's why a lot of people are intimidated by therapy. But I would encourage people to like lean into that and just go through it, because like you come out of it on on the other side as a better person. And like even now, like I think everybody needs therapy. Like even normal people and civilians need therapy. You know what I mean? Because we're not taught to deal with things. Like we're not taught how to properly utilize our mind or manifest things or to cope with things or how to think about things, like we're actually pretty distracted in this time of of a human, of how to actually be with yourself. You know what I mean? We're so distracted by so many different things. So I think therapy for anybody is a good idea, because it really just allows you to get to know yourself more, and it gives you a strategy to be able to navigate and understand yourself more. Because I heard this and I 100% agree with this. It's like nothing's wrong with you. You are made from God. You are, a part of God, and nothing's wrong with you. Something just might be wrong about your strategy of how you view yourself. You know what I mean? And yeah, because we're human. We make mistakes, but at the end of the day, those mistakes are made for a reason. You know what I mean? And if you're not growing from your mistakes that you made, then you're really allowing those mistakes to accumulate without growing from them. And that's where I think you go wrong at. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's important that you learn and grow from them.
Don't let the mistakes define you.
Right? Exactly.
So where did we go after the second deployments?
You stayed back at Stewart, and well, actually,
That's
no.
why we kind of met up.
You went to school. You went to ALC. So when he got back from his deployment, he went to ALC, and a couple months after, I went to ALC.
Okay.
And during that part, when we were in ALC, which is like the school to get promoted to become a staff sergeant,
leadership.
We were there at separate times, but I was in the process. I forget what it's called now, but basically I was PCSing en route. So I was going to school, and then from there I was going to in process at his unit.
Okay.
And so one of the people from his unit was there at my school. And so he kind of like was like, oh yeah, I'll just, help you out when you get there, help you in process, show you around, show you to everybody and stuff. And he had relationships with him. So from the jump, I mean, we were both staff sergeant. Well, as soon as I got to his unit, I got promoted to a staff sergeant. He had just got promoted to a staff sergeant. So we were like on we were kind of like on the same path. We were both aircraft commanders. We had both just got promoted to being staff sergeants. We were kind of like tit for tat. We were like the high speed people at our unit, I guess you can say. Because there was like older people like sergeant first class and stuff, but we were like the young and upcoming. You know what I mean?
I was actually going to mention that because, you guys had mentioned you were both sergeant first class. And I was like, man, they weren't in the Army a real long time. Like, they both got promoted really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I
actually got demoted twice.
Demoted twice? Oh, man, what happened?
Well, the first time I got demoted was in basic.
I didn't know about this.
I didn't even know you could get demoted in basic.
I got demoted in basic. But, okay, so going into basic, I was actually a PFC. I didn't start at E1. I started as an E3 PFC because I don't even remember how
You have to like do some courses or something online to go into basic as a
one reason.
Recruiting, there was things that they could give you where you could like take tests, or if you had ROTC experience, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but I know I went in as a PFC. And again, coming from my lifestyle authority, it was a hard adjustment. And so I just honestly I just refused to do something that the drill sergeant told me to do. I don't even remember what it was, but it almost led to us fighting, and another drill sergeant got involved, and then they just demoted me over there. But I lost one rank, so I went from PFC to an E2, or from E3 to E2, and then the second time I had just got promoted to an E5. And I think it was downrange. I had just got promoted. I hadn't even been an E5 for 3 months, maybe. And I got promoted while I was downrange. Tax free. Yeah. Got promoted while I was downrange. And then 3 months went by, and then you go home, and then you reintegrate, and then they give you the leave. So I took my 2 weeks of leave, I went home, and what did my dumb ass do? What I did was I got my motorcycle. And that was my thing. Like, I just had a need for speed. I still have a need for speed, but I have a 2-year-old now that is negating me from it. But it's for good purposes. But yeah, I just was hauling ass, and I refused to stop when the police threw his lights on. And so that was a whole situation.
No way he said that.
That was a whole situation. And it's going to be completely off the Army, so I'm not going to go there. But long story short, I ended up going to jail for that, and the Army got me out of jail. Yeah. And yeah, I had to go through that, and I got demoted for that. And I went from E5 to E4, and I got my E5 back in like 6 months.
Well, that's at least it didn't set you back too far. But.
Yeah, so it hurt. Because the embarrassment, the loss of pay, and yada yada yada, whatever. But it taught me a valuable lesson, and you can't. At that time, my goal was to make sergeant major, and I heard that you can't make sergeant major without getting demoted first. So yeah. I was just falling in the suit with that one anyway. Yeah. So that was that.
What's the other one? You can't be a first sergeant without a DUI, and then
yeah.
Well, I mean, so did you've alluded to a couple times like your problem with authority. Like, did you grow up in a rough area? Did you have a?
Oh yeah. So the part of Mississippi I am, Columbus, Mississippi, it's like it's super small city, but it's too small. It's too small, and the influence is too direct. So yeah, it's just like a lot of drugs, gangs.
A lot of guns,
everything.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like, living there is comparable to Afghanistan and Iraq. Like, I'm not joking. It's some of the things that happen there is like relatable Chicago style.
Gotcha.
But on a smaller scale, so you don't hear about it.
So the Army was definitely a whole different world when it came to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's understandable if you hit a couple little roadblocks a little bit.
Yeah, that was just my growth points. That was all.
Yeah, I mean, we all have them.
Yeah.
I gotten plenty of. I probably could have been a staff sergeant by the time I got out if I hadn't. Luckily, I never really got in any trouble, but I got in my own way a lot and got in fights with a few upper enlisted and stuff like that. But yeah, we all have our moments.
But you got to remember, though, we was in aviation, so it's a little bit softer over there. So you can talk wrong and get demoted over there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another interesting the difference in the worlds. So like when I had moved in from transportation into intelligence, like those dudes over there were cool as shit. They didn't care about anything.
Yeah.
But when I was in processing, I was playing on my phone one day, and a captain walks in, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm like getting up and getting that attention and stuff. He's like, it's cool, man. We don't got nothing for you to do. Just sit down, relax, play on your phone. Not a big deal. And I'm like, how am I not getting my ass chewed right now?
Right, yeah.
That's, yeah, the whole I've heard stories of like aviation side being different and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Did that So is that also like when you guys getting promoted very quickly? I mean, obviously you sound like you guys were really great and proficient at what you do, but at the time when it was a growing part of the army, did that play into that at
Oh,
all?
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like our points were like very minimal probably to get promoted. But once they split the MOSs, it became convoluted at that point to get promoted to the higher ranks.
Yeah,
So getting to E6 was fairly easy. I mean, but our tempo compared to like normal army was a lot different too.
yeah,
So like we had 2 deployments on our belt within 5 years, whereas somebody in infantry went 5 years without deploying the entire
yeah.
time.
They would
You
have
know what I mean? So it
period
was very different in that.
non-deployable for 5 years or whatever. Whereas you guys
Ex-
said you were wheels up again a year and a half later, which is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So our tempo was a lot different. But getting to staff sergeant was fairly easy, but to get to sergeant first class, like we needed to be like cream of the crop, top tier, to
I'm,
get
I'm
there.
not.
Because
I'm not trying to take away from your guys's. Uh,
yeah,
I mean, it sounds like you guys did like awesome stuff, and it sounds like it was warranted at that time. Like everything was so accelerated.
yeah,
We need good people to get leadership so we can make this mission happen, kind of thing.
yeah.
Sergeant first class was a lot more competitive at that point.
Yeah, because once the MOS is split, um, they pulled. I'm trying to remember. They pulled a lot of the. Okay, so a lot of people got to choose, right? Do I want Shadow? If they were dual qualified, do I want Shadow or do I want Gray Eagle, right? And a lot of the people who had been in longer were dual. They were cross trained, and they all wanted to stay Gray Eagle because Shadow sucks. Shadow sucks. I think they're getting rid of Shadow. I think yeah, they're getting rid of Shadow now. But so everybody stayed Gray Eagle. So as far as like people who were higher in the ranks stayed over to our side. So there was an extreme need on the Shadow side for E7, but to get promoted to E7 as a Gray Eagle operator was fairly hard.
That makes sense.
Well, it's because I think they don't just encompass Gray Eagle.
No, that's for E8. Yeah,
Okay.
that was for first sergeant. But yeah. And then for first sergeant, if we were to keep going in the army, it was almost damn near impossible to get E8 because like, you're when you're going for sergeant, when you're going for or E9.
No, it's E8.
No, E8, yeah. When you become a first sergeant, you're no longer a first sergeant of that MOS, you're a first sergeant of that branch, right? And so you're in competition with all these other people who've been in the military 15 to 17 years. They've been in a long time, and you've only been in 6 to 7 years, 8 years. And so, yeah, it becomes extremely like it's hard to get promoted past there. Not saying that it's not possible now, but at the time for us, it was like almost unheard of for one of Gray Eagle operator to become a first sergeant.
Yeah.
Most of our
I think there was only three in the army, period, when we got out. There
yeah.
were only 3 first sergeants from our MOS.
Yeah.
And most of our like in order to progress on our side, most of our people went to become warrant officers.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the kind of a middle ground, instead of like if you don't want to go full officer. Did you
Yeah.
have officers in your side at all? Or?
The only officer that we had was our commander
Okay.
and XO sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Sometimes.
XO would be like a
Warrant officer too.
yeah, or a regular officer like a lieutenant, but mainly we dealt with warrant officers because
Yeah.
aviation is mainly warrant officers.
Yeah, it's much more specialized kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys came back, third deployment, getting ready to do that, and you said earlier that's when you guys have met up. You were getting ready to come into his unit full time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after school, I got promoted as soon as I got to his unit, and he kind of like he's a very like open, very warm like Southern hospitality type personality. You know what I mean? So as soon as I got there, he was like, "Welcome to the unit." He's like, "Let me take your pictures after my promotion ceremony," because my family was there. He's like, "Let me record it for you," and he was just very like welcoming. And
hooking her up. I was getting that, hearing that good old special.
And so then at the time, my mom, she didn't tell me this, but she told my dad, she's like, she's going to end up with him.
What were we talking about? People only want something.
I was like, that's crazy. But he was very like, you know, he treated my parents very nicely. He was like offering them water and food or whatever.
Sometimes it's just those people that just like the connection is immediate, you know?
Yeah, like it's like I felt like as soon as I met him, I'd known him a lifetime. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, oh, you're a stranger. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And like, so I wouldn't call it love at first sight or anything, but like once I got to know her a little bit, it was like a no-brainer, just the things that she was about. And
yeah, like the same type of drive, I guess. Yeah.
Just makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel you.
But what really got him is because I had a motorcycle, and I didn't even know he didn't have a motorcycle at the time.
Yeah.
And
I was still burned from
post crash,
from the other,
post incident, I should say.
Yeah, and so I think I had, you know, when you have a motorcycle, you have to get motorcycle inspections by your motorcycle safety officer.
License to drive it on post and do
that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I had just got to unit, so I had to bring my motorcycle to the unit so that they could do all the inspections on it or whatever. And I pulled up on my motorcycle, and he's like, "That's your motorcycle?" And I shit you not, the next day, 6:30 in the morning, here you go, on a motorcycle. And I'm like,
I immediately went home and found their motorcycle off Marketplace that day.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. And so from there, we just really, from there, we got, I think I was there a week. And then we went to the field.
Mm.
We went to the field for 2 weeks. And so that week of me being there, I was in processing. Plus, I was, you know, we were preparing for the field. I think it was a division operation or whatever. And so he was on day shift. I was on night shift. But we did the same position. So we'd have to like sync up in the middle or whatever. And then you're in the field. So even though you're not on shift or off shift, you're still there. You know what I mean? And so there was often times where we would have like incoming and we would have to go to the front lines, or we have troops in contact. We have to run to the front lines. And then me and him were equal rank. So we were both staff sergeants. So we were in charge of the 2 platoons. And so we would go get accountability back and forth and report to each other, whatever. And yeah, so we just kind of bonded from there. Like that's where our friendship kind of like began, because we were like equals, I guess you can say. Mm-hmm. And we are very like same mindset. I would say we have 2 very different ways of going about things, but our end goal and our morals are like the same.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So during that same training at FTX that she's talking about, there was this one time I remember that I don't even know. I think I got to. So we was practicing the incoming or whatever, and I think that
you died.
Yeah, I died.
Yeah.
Or got injured or something.
I think I died or got injured. I got injured, and they had to get me to
the medical.
No, that's not what happened.
Yeah, we had to load
your front seat.
That was after. So we had to. So we were taking accountability, and then he got shot, and so we had to load him onto a gurney or whatever, put him on the back of the Humvee. And then me and somebody else, we took him to the med station. But mind you, there was a whole line at the med station. So I told the other soldier, just go back and I'll stay here with him until this gets done or whatever. Because it's like, you know, you have to play through the whole game.
Yeah.
And so we got done at the med center or whatever. They're like, okay, you're not unalived. You're alive now. You're good to go. You're, you know, everything. You're healed.
You might be a unit.
And at this point, so we were in a rush to get him over there. So we don't have 2 NVGs. We only have 1 NVG.
It's pitch black. You can't see it. There's no street. There's nothing but like the crescent of a moon. It's not a crescent moon, the crescent of a moon.
But we didn't have like our Kevlar or anything to attach the NVGs to. And we're in a blackout scenario, so we can't turn on our headlights. So I'm like, okay.
And we gotta get this Humvee back to a specific little spot that's surrounded in Constantine wire and yada. There's a whole obstacle to even get to this place. And mind you, between us and this place is people that are like laying out in their freaking tents and people that are in sleeping bags, not in tents. And
walking to the bathroom.
People that are walking to the bathroom. It's just a mess of like people, and you can't see them. Like you legitimately can't see anybody. So you can, if you put your hand out in front of you, you wouldn't be able to see it. Like it's completely black.
Yeah.
And so we're like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna drive back? And so he has the NVGs and he's holding them like this, right? And he's looking. And he's telling me which way to go and how to drive. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm really having to put a lot of trust in this guy right now.
But you got to think, this is also how we taxied his aircraft. Like,
yeah,
it's the same situation, just a different. And so we're practicing our job, but cross training. We're cross training this
call
one.
It fate, first destiny, whatever. It's like in the moments, you know, just this test of ability and trust and.
We're out there. I haven't brushed my hair or teeth or showered in 2 weeks. I'm just kidding. I brushed my teeth at least.
I hope not.
Yeah. I hope you brought your toothbrush at least.
I'm just kidding. But yeah. And then.
That's what it's like out in the desert for 8 months. Like everybody's stinky. I don't care what you do. We all.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, from there, we kind of just grew a bond, got closer and closer, and like kind of like. I don't know. Like we just would hang out on lunch, and then we just. From there we
started. Yeah, from there we started because we was already basically doing the same thing. Like I was a platoon. I was basically platoon sergeant already.
We were like, okay, this is how they ran. We were like the top squad leader, right? And the platoon sergeant was a platoon sergeant, but he was older. Both of them were older, and they had appointments, and they had this, and they were never there. So that we were basically the stand-in platoon sergeants for the unit or each of our platoons.
Mm-hmm. And so we kind of just ran with it. Like we made, instead of being separated, like instead of the divide, we just started like conquering together. Like because as she was saying, like even though we still got all of the flight tasks and that's being treated like, you know, officer level, we still have the enlisted side of stuff where we still got to do these details and we got to provide 10 people, 15 people for formations and yada, yada, et cetera. Like just all these random weird requirements. And so we would just, instead of, you know, just taking from one platoon or whatever, we would just put them together. And same thing for like training. Like we just got so good at creating ways of making the unit stronger and bonding our people together, and like just creating, instead of like a unit, like creating a family out of it. We just got so good at that, and it was nothing else for us to do because we had trained people to basically take our place at that point. And so we was like, well, it's so hard to get E7, or we got to wait 2 years to get E7 before we met the time requirement to, you know, enlist to E7. So it was like, screw it, let's just go warrant. And so then we started tag teaming, like studying, and we were studying
our packets together and studying.
Yeah. And like,
so we would go on lunch to study for the warrant officer. Oh, because we needed to retake our ASVAB in order to qualify to go warrant officer, because we both had like right under the 110 mark.
I was
109.
I was 3 points. Yeah, I was like 5 points, and she was like 2 or 3 points away.
Well, I was 1 point away. Yeah, so we went and redid our ASVAB. So we studied for it, and then we would go on lunch, study for the ASVAB. We went to you have to go through a whole class. Yeah. So we did that together. Then we took our ASVAB together, and then from there, he got orders to go to Korea. And so he ended up leaving to Korea in 2019 or
2019.
Yeah, 2019. And so that year, 2019, he was in Korea, and I was pretty much going all over. I was literally in every time zone in America during that year. Like we went to NTC. Well, I went on PDS mission to basically scope out where they wanted us to fly on the border. And so I was a part of the mission to go see basically if this place was good enough to fly. Then I went out to NTC. We did a rotation there, and then we actually did fly on the border for a few months. And then I don't even know. We were just doing all types of missions, and then we came back, and then we did a mission with the division. And so that was my experience during that year. So it was very hard because him being in Korea on separate sides of the planet, I'm in NTC. I don't have my phone half the time. We're on my missions, or our schedules are completely different. You know what I mean? Being on complete different sides of the world. Trying to still make it work, our relationship was extremely difficult during that time.
So so we did become a couple prior to me going to Korea. And like she said, it was very difficult because it was like I was catching her when I was going to sleep and vice versa, basically, or we would establish a system, and then she would go to another time zone, and then we have to redo it. And it was like that for every 3 months. It was just changing every 3 months, and that was basically our 2019.
And then 2020 happened, and we all know what happened in 2020, right?
It made things a lot easier.
Yeah.
So
I did a side mission from Korea, and I went to the Philippines to be in charge of a small detachment in the Philippines. And the small detachment of 13 people, myself and one officer included. So and we went over there to fly a Philippine mission. And we was supposed to only be there for 2 months, but then COVID hit, and the president of the Philippines was like, nobody in, nobody out.
Wow.
For real. And so it was shut down. And so we was just stuck. But we were stuck with MARSOC, so we was kind of hanging out. To be honest. So it kind of went back to the college days, just minus the beer. But
it's crazy that the president of the Philippines can make that call, and the army couldn't do anything about getting you back out of there.
Well, he owns the airspace of that entire country. So it wasn't that we couldn't get planes in and out. So he just shut down airspace.
Yeah.
But during that time so he was trying to navigate that. He was the first sergeant over there. So he was really trying to navigate all that. And so we had got orders to, back up before he went to the Philippines. So we had started dating a couple months before he went to Korea. I don't remember how many months, but quite a few months before he went to Korea. And then we somehow, by the glory of God, got orders to go to SLC together for E7, the school for E7. And I don't know, that's where the other thing I was at that year was SLC. We, the end of 2019, October, well, a little bit before that, but September, October.
We ended in October.
Yeah, we ended in October. We had got orders to go to SLC together. So he flew all the way from Korea to Alabama, and I drove to Alabama from Georgia, and I picked him up, and we were in SLC together, which was crazy. And then from there, we're like, okay, well, let's take a little vacation. Thank God we did that. Let's take a little 2-week vacation or a week vacation. I don't even remember. I think it was 2 weeks.
It was a week.
Okay, 1 week vacation. And then we sat there and planned out where do you want to go? And at the time, Groupon had what do you call it?
Just like a travel package, an inclusive travel package.
And there was between two places, but we ended up picking Costa Rica. And it was the best experience of our entire lives. Seriously, highly recommend Costa Rica. Yeah. And during that time, he proposed to me.
Wow.
And so the Army makes you do stupid things. And I'm not saying that this was stupid, but looking at it, it worked out. But we ended up getting married right after, so he proposed to me. We got back, we got married, and then he went to Korea, and then I stayed.
It's crazy.
Yeah, what a honeymoon there.
Right? Yeah.
We did the honeymoon first.
Yeah.
And so from there, but that was our only chance really of saving our relationship. You know what I mean? Like we deeply cared about each other and we felt like it was right, I never felt any like the same way I felt about him with anybody in my entire life. And so it was a huge risk for a bigger reward, I'd say. But it worked out. And from there, a few months later went on or whatever, and he went to the Philippines, and we got orders to PCS to Fort Campbell, Tennessee. And so basically we were going to meet in Tennessee together. So I had to move our entire house in Georgia and pack up and move to Tennessee myself. Well, my parents helped me, but and then he met me in Tennessee. That was a whole story. I'll let you tell that part.
What, to my how quick we had
The typhoon.
So okay, so that was her experience getting to Tennessee. My experience getting to Tennessee was I wasn't supposed to leave Korea the day that I had to leave to Korea. If I was going to do this, I had to do it this day.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't, the delay was like I think the delay was like a month. It was a month delay. If I didn't make the airport this day, it was a month delay before I can even get back on a list to to leave Korea again. And we were supposed to be deployed in 3 weeks from that time. So a month would have been too long. So I had to make this flight. And so on this day, there was a typhoon hitting.
Which is like a hurricane.
It's a hurricane.
But it goes the opposite way.
It's an opposite hurricane. It's a reverse hurricane. And it was hitting freaking Korea, South Korea. And man, what an experience, because the entire country shut down. So how I made it, God, this is how it looked. So I walk out of the gates because, okay, so there's no communication, because it's not like it's hard to communicate because they speak Korean, right? And I don't. And
I don't.
and it's not like it's so okay. Our experience in Costa Rica is like, if you call these people, like whatever this line of communication, if you call these people and they speak in Spanish, just say English, please. And somebody would get on the phone that speaks English. Yeah. In Korea, it was just it was continuous of their language. Like there was no English interpreters. So getting a taxi was hard. Traveling, the subway system, navigating the subway system, the bus system, all of that stuff is like a huge learning curve, because you're doing it without being able to communicate with anybody. And you can have Google Translate, but the way we had Google Translate, the way we got service over there was through the SIM cards. But since that typhoon was hitting, all the service was down. Like there was no communication, period. And so I'm walking out of the gate with my 2 duffel bags over my back. I'm walking out of my base gate, and I'm just like, let's do this. We got to make it like a car distance. I think it was a 10-hour drive. No, I'm sorry. It was a 5-hour drive car distance, a 10-hour bus ride, or a taxi. I think taxi was 8 hours, 8-hour taxi drive to get to the airport from my base. I was just like, got to figure it out. It's either today or never. It's now or never. And so, yeah, I walked, which was probably like 15 miles. I walked from my base to the bus stop just to find out that the buses were not running. Like everything was shut down. I was just praying that they were still running, and they weren't. And so I don't even remember. Like I think I'm sitting on the steps at the bus station, just trying to figure out like what's my next move. And this guy comes up behind me, a Korean guy, and he speaks English. And he said, basically, can I help you? And I said, I'm just trying to get to the airport. I'm just trying to figure out how to get to the airport. And he said, oh, well, I'm headed to Seoul, which is the capital, which is where the airport is. And I said, that's crazy. Could I catch a ride with you? And he said, sure. Very, very skeptically, he said, sure. And I said, all right, let's do this. And I just threw my bags in his car and we just drive. And I'm talking about like I'm seeing tornadoes. Like like I'm in a movie scene. Shit's being thrown across the road. Like there's points where you can't even see because it's raining so hard. Like legitimately you see like trees being uprooted and we're just driving and I'm talking to this guy and he's talking to me and I can tell like when he gets invested in like me, he gets invested in like it becomes his priority to get me to the airport. And it was crazy. Like I'm telling you, it was like a movie scene. Yeah. And long story short, like that's what it was. Like we was just navigating this typhoon, and some of the roads were blocked because of trees, and I can't communicate with her, so she's worried. I remember like, what's going on? She's worried because we're used to like texting each other so much, but like I said, all communication was down. So like I think the last thing I said something along the lines like, I think I won't be able to communicate with you, but I'm trying to get to the airport because the country is shut down. It was something to that nature. And I know I freaked out, but I just left after that. I don't even think I waited for her response. Yeah. But somehow I just popped up at the airport and I got on their Wi-Fi. I let her know I was good. And the flight was delayed a little while. But yeah, I got home. So yeah, that was that situation. It was just God put the right people in place every time for us.
That dude do it in that moment. He's like, "This is my purpose right now is to get this man."
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how he invested. Like, he started telling me about it, like his kids and his family and what he does. And he was driving a Hyundai Genesis. Yeah, and he was telling me, he was like, "Oh, Hyundai." He's like, "Hyundai Genesis is." American Mercedes Benz. That's what he said. So yeah, he was a cool dude. Like we got to know each other. Like I said, it was like 7-8 hour drive, but this man took me the whole way to the airport off route because he actually wasn't going to Seoul. He was going like an hour before you get to Seoul, but he took me the whole way.
That's like only God could do something.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
Yeah. He took me the whole way. He helped me with my bags. Helped me like get to the flight and everything. Because like I said, everything was in Korean. And yeah, he like helped me the whole way. So yeah, it was really, really cool. And then to be able to reunite with her after that experience was another experience. But,
yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, I bet that felt really good landing at home and seeing her and being like, man, I made it through a hurricane to make it.
Yeah. I made it through a reverse hurricane for you just to leave with you in 2 weeks.
COVID was going on, and
it was crazy. Like the world was shut. Literally, the world was shut down. I guess you could say.
It was wild. I remember driving around, like going because I was considered essential, so I was still going to work and being like no traffic. Like this, can we do this all the time? It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Gearing up to go back over on another deployment just after that, right?
Yeah. So we literally land. She does something special for me, off topic, and so she does something special for me, and from there we get to the unit. We integrate in process in the unit. They like speed up our in process. Usually it's like 3 days to a week, depending on rank. But I think we went through in processing like in a day.
They expedited us.
Yeah, they expedited us through in processing. Then we immediately went to the unit, shook everybody's hand, and literally went right back out of the door, going back to the battalion and start like doing all the paperwork and getting the shots and everything for.
The unit was already deployed, and I think they were there like 2 to 3 months before we had got there. Mm-hmm. And so we were going on instead of a 9-month deployment, we were only going for 6. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we ended up going with a group of people like 3 months later, but it was like the new first sergeant had came in, us 2, and then there was like probably 6 PFCs or E4s and below that came with us. Yeah.
So were you guys going to replace some people there or just to augment that unit over there?
They weren't manned properly. because of COVID, people weren't able to PCS in the way they should have, and so they weren't manned as they should have been, and so and people got the PCSs got pushed left and right for the first sergeants and stuff, and so that's why everything was kind of crazy that deployment. But
Where
yeah,
did you guys, where were you going to at that time?
Iraq.
Okay, back to Iraq then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 2 deployments in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq, and she has 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was something that my friend who edits the videos was particularly interested about, because when I was telling him I was in talks with you guys, I was like, yeah, they're like a married couple who deployed together. And he's like, you could do that?
Yeah.
I'm like, so like, I don't know how, like, I know the Army has, because we were curious, like, were you guys housed together? How did you guys get over together? How were you even in the same unit that deployed together? Because a lot of times you'd be married, but in different units. So
Yeah.
like,
So
and,
so because of our MOS, it's like, there's only a handful of Grego units in the entire army, right? And so as a married couple, you have to get stationed together. So either we're in the same unit or we're not. There's not 2 different units at one base, typically, unless there's special forces there. But there's not really 2 units and 1 base. So they would have to put us together. But what they did, because we were equals, is when we got downrange, they put us on separate ships.
okay.
So we lived together, but like it was like, okay, he was at work for 12 hours and I was at the barracks, and then we flip flop. You know what I mean? And that's how it was. But we weren't in a good place in our relationship, or even mentally at the time, like everything we had gone through up until this point. And so we were struggling as people, and luckily we had a very, very, very good command team there.
Yeah.
And they really cared about us as a couple, as a relationship, as humans, and they were able to help us. Like we had many talks with like some of the higher ranking people there, mentorship and guidance, and kind of like how to navigate this, because this was new to us, and they allowed us to be on the same shift together. They rearranged these so that we could be on the same shift together. And of course we were equals. So it wasn't like he would give me special treatment, or, you know what I mean? Like anything that we did, if we were a relationship, it just made it 10 times better because we had such a good relationship. You know what I mean? Like working wise, like, between our first sergeant could come to us and we'd have something done like this, like it was very amicable and working, and it worked. And so all we really did was work out, and that was our thing. We just worked out, or like we did stuff with our soldiers. We
figured out ways to because of the command team, they and what they allowed us to do, we figured out ways to get through that deployment and spend the time that we needed, even when it had to be creative, like, okay, I'm gonna spend time with you I can't do this, but how about we get opportunities together and we be the instructor, so we're kind of like partnering it up.
Like we do combatives together and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we made it fun, and we were just creative in that aspect of making things work.
Yeah, it's interesting that because COVID, a lot of divorces came from COVID, because people who spent a lot more time together than they previously have realized they don't really like each other.
Right. Yeah.
So your guys' situation was like it was kind of like different in a lot of ways, like trying to find those ability to put you guys together to be able to spend that time together.
Yeah.
Realize you guys did have that relation and do like each other, thankfully.
Yeah. And I think like dealing with all that, like we had individual things that we had going on that we used each other. And that's, I think, where we bonded, was like we were each other's soundboard, and a lot of times that caused us to clash, but at the end of the day, like we always loved each other, like no matter what. And I think that's what kept us together. And we always like respected each other. And I think as we started growing together, we realized like it's not us. We individually have issues that we need to work out, and we can do this together, and we can do this amicably. I think that's the right word.
Close enough.
Yeah, like we can do it together, or we can, be at each other's necks, and like, respect that we're not perfect, and respect that we're on a journey, and respect that, it's a learning process for us both, and I think once we had a shift in our mindset, it kind of like made the relationship work a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the command, I mean, it definitely, just to be, real, it's a risky prospect because you got plenty of couples that can't work together.
Yeah,
Right.
it's extremely risky, and you can tell that. You could tell, like, you could see it in the leadership's eyes, like that they were processing that risk
Yeah.
at times, like because of exactly what you're saying, like because it could be a bad situation where me and her flip shit. Yeah, we just flip shit and just and that'd be a bad impression on the whole unit, and the fact that we was downrange, that could be even worse because now I could jeopardize missions because people are thinking about what the Baitys were doing over this mission or whatever. So yeah, it was a huge risk that they assumed, and we understood that.
Yeah, and luckily we had because it's such a small community, like our leadership had worked with our previous leadership, like they all knew each other, and so we had already established ourselves within the community as like we developed our name for ourselves, you know what I mean? And like, these are reliable people, these are good people, they know what they're doing. And so I think because of that, that's why they gave us an opportunity. I think if they didn't know us or our past or anything, that they probably wouldn't have done the same thing.
For sure.
But because it was such a small community, I think we had an advantage. Yeah.
Our audio is about to get compromised too.
Oh.
I think so. Just let me know if it changes. If it sounds weird for you. Yeah.
That's all right. Work with what. But I was just gonna say a lot of couples can't separate, like home life from work life kind of thing. So you guys talk about having people's lives in each other's hands, but then one of you gets pissed at the other and be like, "Well, you at the chew last night said that,"
Yeah.
But, but I think that's really cool, and I really admire you guys and your ability to be able to do that, and recognize that within yourselves, and to it definitely tells a lot about you that you were able to show your command, that you guys could handle that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it is a risky prospect.
Yeah,
I think a big part of it is our mindset, and we still carry this trait to the day. It's not more so of it's not like a problem and then stress. It's or a roadblock. It's like, okay, well, now we found the block. How do we make it work? Like how we get on the other side of the block?
Yeah.
It's just like that's naturally the
that's
way
who
we
are.
think.
Yeah,
And I don't think a lot of people now, I see it all day, like legitimately all day. When people get to blocks, they get frustrated, and then they get focused on the frustration minus the initial thing that they was doing. Not even a problem, but the initial thing that they was doing, and so they get sidetracked from the goal. And I think that's where me and her excels at, is that we're so goal oriented,
focused and driven towards that goal. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So what was that deployment like? Just similar to the previous deployments, or was it different?
It was like a mix between this first and second deployment. The tempo was a lot less.
Yeah, we didn't
strenuous.
shoot much. It was a good blend. I would say it was a good blend of both of our deployments.
Yeah.
And it was a lot different for us because of like the rank that we were at the time. Like we were already acting as E7s, even though we were in E7s during this deployment, we was acting as E7s, and so like our outside of the box or outside of the aircraft requirements were so extensive, like having to deal with
you busy the whole time.
Not having to deal with, but having to coordinate and figure out like everybody else's obstacles and things of that nature. Like that was huge on our plate. On top of like the
like you don't even have time to figure out yourself because you just got so many other things going on.
Being leadership at that point, a lot of people think like, oh, you go up in rank and things get easier, and it's like, no, you go up in rank and you get more responsibilities.
things do get easier in a way because it's like being an entrepreneur, right? Like things aren't easier, but you control your life, right? So in that sense, like if I don't want to go outside and do PT because it's negative 30 degrees, I can come up with a different way, more creative way to do PT. You know what I mean? So I have the power to make decisions that I would want to make. And so in that way, it gets easier, but it does come with a lot more responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and your focus just shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like I would like when I was doing management and stuff, it's like, yeah, I'm not as physically labored anymore as my people in the field, but I have all these other things that I have to do.
Right. Right.
It's not that it's less, it's just different. It's a
It's
shift.
different. Yeah. Yeah. And then you start to see a bigger picture. Like if I don't get these things done, if I don't do these things, then this whole thing will fail, or this person won't get paid, or you know what I mean? Like this person won't get promoted, or it's like the things you do start to matter a lot. Like not that I'm not gonna say matter a lot more. You start to see the effects of your work. Whereas when you're lower enlisted, you don't see the bigger picture. You know, you're just doing what you got to do, not understanding that you do play a vital role in the bigger picture. You know, you don't see that.
Like you said earlier, you show up in the right uniform on at the right time, and like the food is there. You don't,
Right. Yeah.
paperwork and all the stuff that your sergeant had to
You just got to fill out the paperwork. Yeah.
Then the other spectrum, you don't want to coordinating the food to be there on
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So did you guys, that was during COVID time. So did
Mhm.
you have to follow all the same like mask restrictions and all like stuff like that while being on deployment?
Since
Or
Uh,
it was loose.
it was loose.
It was loose. Like, you'll go in this building and they'll say mask requirements on the door, but especially when we got over there, like I think the only time we really wore masks is in the defect. I think we had to wear masks.
well, it's totally different than like being out here in the world where you could potentially interact. You guys are like the same 10 people together all the time.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But on that deployment, it was fine. Like, yeah, I don't know.
That deployment, I mean, like I said, it was slow. It was more so like I think my focus. I can't speak on Ashley per se, but like my focus was more so because I was so new at the unit. My focus was like getting to know everybody and,
Yeah, the
and
soldiers.
building or building and keeping the morale high.
Yeah.
Because when we got there, the morale was
So
low.
yeah.
And the leadership was more focused on getting the mission accomplished than the actual soldiers. And so when we came, our focus was like getting the soldiers in check and creating, things that they can do on their off time there.
We made it fun for the soldiers.
Exactly.
Like we used to have like little, workout competitions. We'd go play football. We would do things to make things fun. And like we'd have PT competitions because some people get on deployment and PT kind of goes from a unit thing to like on deployment, you do it on your own. And a lot of people do very good at it and a lot of people suck at it. You know what I mean? So it was us trying to get those people who sucked at it to become like make it fun for them and like make sure they were doing it and making sure everybody was mentally healthy, mentally stable. And I think because of our last deployment, we knew the effects that a deployment could have on somebody and we were able to kind of like be proactive versus like letting it happen. And I think that's why we went into that deployment having a big purpose, I think.
Mhm.
And a lot of people like looked up to us on that deployment. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
It makes me wonder, why do you think it is? You said the previous leadership was so focused on the mission that it really was driving everything down. Why do people forget that your soldiers are mission critical? And if you don't take care of them, that mission doesn't happen.
I think that's a simple answer, actually. I think it's a very complex answer, but I think it's a simple answer. I think that it takes two different brains to do that. And a lot of people, and we are people of habits. And so if something's working for you and that's what's excelling you in your life, whether that's rank or just natural dopamine, whatever. Like if doing this makes you feel good, you're never going to try to do that unless you either understand that there's two sides or somebody's pushing you to do both. And I think that's the answer. Like it takes two different people, two different not personality, but two different perspectives, two different brains to do. Like one is a more a caring and proactive, and the other one is a more driving and stern. And how do you do both? Well, you don't. You kind of create your own medium.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, it's part of the whole reason why you pair a captain and a sergeant first class together, or
Right.
why you have that person who's looking at the administrative paperwork side and the person who's looking at the personnel side, and
Right.
when they come together to make things happen.
Yeah.
And again, and we still do it today. That's another something. That's another thing that me and Ashley established, like that we were able to zoom in because that's part of our job. Actually, is to zoom in, but we also know now when to zoom out.
Right.
And because we have that ability to zoom in and zoom out, we also, when we zoom out, now we realize that we can change perspective when we zoom out. Like we can look left and zoom back in over here, or we can zoom out, look center, and then look right and zoom back in. And that's kind of how we drive our lives. And that's very taxing on one person to do, especially like when you're not trained to do that. And it's taxing, and it's like mentally draining. So like still to this day, like me and Ashley like carry a lot of our Army habits into our lives of today. And like now we still do the same thing. Like we'll go in with full focus, or do a micro analysis on something, and then we'll macro it, and then we'll just see, okay, now where do we put these pieces in our life to get us to where we're going? And then when one of us like taps out, like, all right, I'm done. And then she'll have my back, and she'll go back in with the same perspective, or she'll tap and she's like, I'm going to sleep, and just pick up from here. This is where I'm at. Like, and we still carry that same driving force to this day. So, but to get back on your question, I think that's why that situation is the way it is because it takes two different people to do it.
Yeah.
Or a single person that understands that it takes two different people.
And you got to understand, we were going into a situation where they were understaffed. So they didn't have the proper leadership put into place to be able to do the things that we were able to do while we were there.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, my wife, we talk about, like I tell people, and they say like relationships are 50-50. I'm like, that's bullcrap, because there's 80-20. You know what I mean? There's other days it's 60-40. Some days I gotta pick up where, she's having a rough day, or so yeah, being able to slide that meter back and forth.
Yeah. Thread the needle.
Yeah. I think the hard part about that deployment came after the deployment.
That was gonna be the next thing I asked you. I mentioned that earlier a little bit, like coming home to COVID world was
so the deployment. So, okay, that deployment, the unit who our unit replaced, they got bombed by Iran. So I don't know if you remember, but the Iran ballistic missile impacted our base, and it actually hit our gym. And so
we had a personal gym. So when she
we had all units gym.
It basically hit our workspace.
So like in your little compound, you guys had like a portable with a gym in it and hit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so the remnants of this ballistic missile are all over. Like all over the T-walls, all over the gym equipment, all over the floor, all over the concrete, all over everywhere, right? And so when we got there, they gave us a memorandum that says, since you're here, the ballistic missile hit, and now you're exposed to like this long list of hazardous material. So like, okay, thanks, great, whatever, no big deal. Like, Afghanistan was burn pits and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we're just like, we'll just add it to the list, whatever. We'll pay for it later on, like that's how it works. So when we get back from the deployment, within a month, I had one of my soldiers, she was young. I was talking about young, maybe 20, not even 20. and she was fit. She was the fittest female in our unit, and she was always at that dang gym. And she started passing out for no reason. She started having they called it like a idiopathic, where she's just allergic to anything at any time for any reason. She could just become allergic to something. And her blood pressure started to drop, and she started passing out for no reason. And we're like, what is going on? And so, okay, that happens. Another warrant officer, older, he's probably like in his late 40s, he starts passing out for no reason, passing out for no reason, passing out for no reason.
But he stayed in the gym.
Trey, he got home, and he had his poor self. He had a rough time. He injured his ACL, tore his meniscus, or he tore his meniscus and ACL, had to have knee surgery. Then he had blood work done. You know how you go in for your annual blood work or whatever. And they said, you're about to have a heart attack. You need to go to the emergency room immediately. We're like, what? Like, we're walking into the gym, and they're like, you need to go to the emergency room. So we're like, okay. So we're like freaking out. Apparently his CPK levels were like heart attack high. And so we get to the hospital. They're like, you're fine. Don't know what they're talking about. He goes the next day to the cardiologist, and they do tests on him. They can't figure out why his levels are so high, but now his kidney and his liver is starting to shut down. And so they admit him into the hospital, and he stays there for like a week, and they diagnose him with rhabdomyolysis, which rhabdomyolysis is basically when your muscles break down so fast, like your body can't get rid of the lactic acid quick enough.
Your body can't get rid of expel the toxin quicker than they're being produced.
And so, but it didn't make sense, because a lot of times people who have rhabdomyolysis, like they go from not working out to working out heavily or something like that.
Like it's common in like when you're going to Ranger school or SF school that you might have rhabdomyolysis.
Yeah.
Because of the intensity, like the change of intensity. Even if you've worked out before, the change, because of how drastic it is, that can cause rhabdomyolysis. But
for Treya, it was kind of weird because he decreased. Like at this time, he had decreased his amount that he was working out. We were still working out like every day, but like comparatively to what he was doing while he was in Korea, the Philippines, and Iraq was a lot less, you know? And so it just didn't make sense. And so, you know, as at that time, we were really trying to fight the lead on like, hey, can we bring this to the division surgeon to get this like looked at? Can we get these T-walls replaced? Like that unit there is already there. The unit that we were at was scheduled to go back there the next year. And so we were like, you know, like this has to get looked at. And it just kept getting passed. Like they're like, there's not enough evidence or not enough data to be able to say anything or conclude that it came from this or whatever. And so that was super frustrating. And then on top of that, you had, you know, the COVID vaccine, like, oh, you either get the shot or you get chaptered. And so we were having to force that. And at this time, we were platoon sergeants now. And so dealing with all that was crazy. I had developed like migraines, like really severe migraines all the time. Couldn't get rid of them. And so I had migraines so bad I couldn't fly anymore. Wow. And so it got to the point where it was just like, we're kind of like over this army thing. And then simultaneously we got pregnant. Yep, we got pregnant. And so it kind of just worked out where I got out on, because we were dual military when I had our son, I got out, and within a month he got chaptered because of his medical situation. So
it wasn't medical retirement. It was.
Oh, his was.
I got a medical retirement.
Okay. I was going to say, like, at least it was a medical retirement kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like your leg's broke. You can't be in anymore. Bye.
No, yeah. His was more, they treated him like a lab rat pretty much, and they couldn't figure out what was going on with him. Still,
the doctor every day. Like for a year straight, I was either at the doctor or admitted in the hospital. Every day, every other week, I was in the hospital. I was doing heart treatment, not treatments, but workups, blood workups, liver, kidneys. Man, they was
chiropractor.
They literally put me through the ringer. Like I've had everything in my body for the most part checked, and but they can't piece it together what's going on. I still have problems now, but they're definitely not as bad as they were with all of the stress and you can't rest and yada yada etc.
Yeah.
But now I'm better because that's not a factor, but I'm not cured by any means.
Yeah, and you still have issues with it.
Yeah, like I can't work out. Like I can work out probably for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, like my body will completely change. Like it'll look like I've been working out for 3 months in those 2 weeks, but my body like it'll swell up to where it'll swell up to where like I basically can't move anymore.
Like he can't even walk sometimes because his hip is locked up, or
it's crazy.
His like shoulders locked up or something.
Well, I feel for you with that, and I hope they figure it out. But
we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out.
Army kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, especially now that like you're home, like, oh, you're better, so that means like there's not a problem. Like, no, there's still a problem.
Just means,
and it's like, weird because if you look at them, it's like nothing's wrong with you. You know what I mean? But no, like witnessing it firsthand, it's like hard to watch. You know, because nobody can help.
And legitimately, like when I go to the doctors now, like I go in, they know I got a problem, or you know they you know how doctors read the chart, and I walk in and they be like, no, no, but yeah, and that's kind of the same mentality they keep throughout the thing is just like, dude, you're good, like everything's good, and I'm like, but I'm not though.
I understand, man. I have neck and shoulder problems, and like I still do stuff, and doctors will the doctors for the most part have been cool, but then other entities will be like, oh, but like you do things, so like you're okay. Like, no, I push through it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Just sit here all day?
Yeah. Like
complain. Yeah.
When I play with my kids, it hurts, but I still do it. Right. So
yeah. And for me, I just like I get dizzy out of nowhere, like vertigo, like extreme vertigo to like where I'm throwing up, and it would last for like 3 days straight.
Yeah.
And I have no idea like what's going on. I've had MRIs and everything. Now I have no idea.
Well, I hope they can figure something out.
I know. But you know how the VA is. It's like I had them put a consult in for neurology, and that was like a year ago.
Yeah.
And I called neurology. They're 5 months out, and I'm like, oh, like yeah.
I'm hopeful.
You put it in your calendar, and then that day comes. You like, I got an appointment today.
Yeah, what is this for?
Temper the expectation a little bit on. Yeah, let's just hope that it doesn't take another 30 years, like people in Vietnam and stuff, for them filing to go like, oh, okay, maybe there were bad things over there.
Yeah, right. Seriously, yeah.
I mean, there is a little bit of hope, I guess, and like the PACT Act that got passed was the year before last.
Yeah.
At least that didn't take 30 years for them to finally go, oh yeah, those burn pits, maybe they were a bad thing.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So what do you guys got going on now?
Oh man, we're 30 and thriving. So after the military, we had a newborn, and we were like, okay, what are we gonna do now? He was getting his VA compensation, but at the time I had applied for my VA disability, but we weren't getting it. And so we're like, what are we going to do? We don't want to like go back to work per se, like a 9 to 5. Like we don't want to work for anybody else. I don't want to put my baby in daycare or anything. And so we were like, we got to find a way to make it work. So we have been into real estate investing for a while. And we started trying to do commercial real estate, like buying and selling multifamily properties and stuff. And it started to work, but it wasn't working as fast as we needed it to. So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? Well, the Army, once you get out, they'll pay for you to go to college. So we were both going to college until we could find a way to make something work. Yeah. And so he was going for marketing. I was going for business. And we were playing, Robert Kiyosaki?
The name sounds familiar, but
He's a real estate investor, and he wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
okay.
Highly recommend. Yes. And so he also has a game called the Cash Flow Game, and it talks about basically like you're in a rat race, and it's like you basically teaching you how to get out the rat race into like becoming somebody who's extremely wealthy. And so at this point, like during the third deployment, we had tried to start our own workout company, like where we were basically influencers on social media, and we had like our own workout programs and stuff. But because I got pregnant and he tore his ACL meniscus, it kind of like put that to the end real quick.
Yeah.
And then coming back to like real life too, like, it's hard to be in the army and run a business. That's really difficult, especially being a platoon sergeant. So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, we keep trying to do these startups. We're into real estate, but that wasn't working as fast as we'd like it to. So what are we going to do? And so when we played the game, we played it with our money, we took like the money that we had and kind of like, because it gives you a card that basically says, this is what you are, this is how many expenses you have, this is how much money you have saved up, whatever. So we basically took our profile and played that game.
Yeah.
And we figured out through that game that in order to become successful, in order to become successful on the timeline we were on, we were going to need to buy a pre-existing business, like an already established business. So we started looking on Biz Buy Sell and stuff like that. And we were looking into like, laundromats, car washes.
I was trying to do something that was passive.
Yeah, like passive income. And so we came across a vape shop in Destin, Florida. And we came across the vape shop and we're like, I was in class and Trey texted me, we're moving to Florida. And I'm from Florida, right? So I get really excited. I'm like, we're moving to Florida, what? Like, I'm excited. And and so he's like, I'm just kidding. But seriously, there's a business in Florida that I think is a good like opportunity for us. So I come home, we talk about it, and we go over the numbers, and we're like, let's fly out there. Let's go see what the opportunity is. So we flew out here for a week and we saw the vape shop and we talked to the owner and we're like, we could do this. And so between ourselves and our families, we gathered up enough money to make this deal work. And we took the business from making $80,000 a year, and now we've made over $350,000 this last year. And so we're growing in that aspect, and that's awesome. And I feel like everything we learned in the Army up until this point, like, made us perfect for the situation. So we've been able to, live off of our VA income and run the business and stay home with our son. And we're looking to expand to 2 more locations. And we're also to kind of in the baby stages of our passion project, which is doing stuff to help veterans. I'm not going to share too many details yet because it's not set in stone yet, but hopefully we'll have a part 2 on here where we can talk a little bit more about that. But yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, well, I mean that's awesome. I mean, you talk about, being ambitious, being driven, always wanting to make that next thing happen and stuff, and I'm glad that all is working out for you guys.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like we look back at it and it's like every part that was painful, every part that was hard, every part that was like at the time you're like, why is this happening to me? It all led us to where we are now. And it's like having the ability to really reflect on like, I'm grateful that thing happened to me that sucked back then, or I'm grateful that didn't work out for me, or I'm grateful, you know what I mean? Just being able to show gratitude for everything, not just the good things, is like extremely powerful. And I think that's that shift in mindset has allowed us to continue to grow to higher destinations, because before I'd be lying if I even thought I was like worthy of being an entrepreneur, you know what I mean? And owning my own business. Like I didn't even think I was worthy of that at one point in my life. And so now like living it and being like, okay, like, and having the ability to be like, this is most people's dream is to be a successful entrepreneur, but now you're dreaming more, like you want more out of your life. It's like empowering. Like, you know, I feel like I'm in control of my life again. And, you know, there's still things about the past and the army and, you know, things that we work through on a day-to-day basis. But at the end of it, like, it's a journey, it's a growing experience, and it's fun and it's emotional, but it's definitely worth it, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Well, that feels like a pretty good stopping point on things. I mean, I think we covered pretty much, you know, things pretty well. And unless you guys had anything else that you would like to add, any final thoughts, any?
I think we hit on everything pretty good. Yeah.
Pretty good. We did pretty good.
Well, thank you guys very much for doing this.
Yeah. And
thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, I appreciate you for what you're doing, and I think it's truly amazing. And I love that there's people like you in this on this planet of like, hey, like it's not all about, you know, the special forces and the cool things you see on TV. Like this is the nitty gritty everyday life that these people go through that many people don't even know about or think about or like can't even comprehend, you know? And so the fact that you're like you have this podcast and you're providing these people opportunities like this is amazing.
I appreciate that very much. I'm just doing doing my best to tell people stories. You know, that's and hopefully your guys' business grows and I hope that this grows and it reaches a bigger audience.
Yes.
And you know, whatever may come from that will come. But you know, like I said, I just it like I say, the emotional and the whatever has been really rewarding and stuff. And so, yeah, and I'm very appreciative that you guys would give me 3.5 hours of your time today, and thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we can do moving forward, like anything we could do to help you grow or help, you know, this platform get out, like we're here for it. We'll do it. You know, like I fully support you and your mission, and we could get you in contact with other soldiers that we know who has like amazing soldiers, stories. So
awesome. That's one part where I'm starting to run down the numbers on my list of people that I have actively scheduled.
yeah.
But like the response has been like when I asked like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, like, would you like to be a part of it? It's like, hell yeah. So
Yeah.
that's been kind of overwhelming. And so, but yeah, I mean, you know, I try to keep the focus a little bit more non-combat kind of thing. So yeah, if there's definitely more people like even within your guys' organization, people work with people you know, like I mean, if they want to tell their story, I want to share it. So
Okay, yeah. We know quite a few people. So.
you guys grow a bigger.
We have a whole community coming your way. You better be careful for what you ask for.
Man, I had to, well, like, listen, my friend does the editing for this. And so, you know, like, I don't have tons of money, but I found a way to scrape together because he does stuff like that professionally. So
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, man, you know, I need help. I can't edit all this stuff. I don't have time. You know, so can you help me do
A
this?
lot, yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to throw more and more people at me, I would be more than happy to tell him, hey, man, I scheduled 100 people just to see how he reacts.
You're like, it's not on me, it's on my editor.
And the social media part, like as you guys grow, you know, I suck at social media. I'm trying to figure it out and get better. But like if you guys have any kind of presence, especially with the business and stuff, I appreciate just the sharing to other people, try to get more eyeballs on and stuff. And if you are doing some kind of veteran kind of whatever thing, you know, I would love to get involved with that kind of stuff in the future. I've got some other ideas that I'm not ready to share yet either, but because this has got to get a little further on before I can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully our ideas will grow and then we can launch something great together.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I'm
Yeah.
stop on
Thank you.